Hello, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. Thanks for joining me. If you're just joining me right now, go ahead and click like and share. Like and share. This is going to be an epic conversation today. Go ahead and click like and share. But better yet, I want you to go ahead and invite somebody else. That's right. Don't hold this information all to yourself this night. Go ahead and invite someone else. Invite someone else. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us, and I'm trying to fix this thing. Anyway, so if you have not joined my TV show before, listen, you are in for a treat today because I have an awesome speaker coming to us all the way from Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. And this is one of the shows that you need to be on. But before I talk about my guest star today, I just want to remind everybody that every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have Christy Wichukwu's Brilliance TV show. That's right, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So what do we do at this show? But maybe I should ask you or tell you, who am I? Who is Christy? Well, I help and teach women, new women entrepreneurs to embrace themselves, express who they are so that they can emerge with confidence. That's right. It's about speak up and speak out and gain confidence. And I am super excited. I want to remind you that on the 20th of October, I have my conference coming on. That is Rock Your Brilliance Empowerment and Business Conference. Again, it is on the 20th of October here in Sacramento, California. I have 3 fabulous speakers. I have Tonya Huffman, who is the founder of Public Speakers Association, coming to us from Texas. And then I have Dr. Marianne Afour, all the way from Arizona as well, be talking about the mindset and money mastery. And then I have the homegirl, Jennifer Dunham. Jennifer will be talking about how you can fill your pipeline with sales and how to really create your ideal clients. And we'll be talking about that and much more. And then you have me. You guys know what you get when you come to me. It's all about confidence, helping you to be able to step out and do that thing that you've always wanted to do, but never thought you can do it. And I'm saying to you, with me at this conference, you'll be able to step out and do everything that you wanted to do. And I want to also remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Rock Your Brilliance. Again, Rock Your Brilliance, so that you can get updates for every star speaker that I have coming on. So I am ready, and I hope you are ready, and you have your pen and your writing material ready, because our speaker today, as I've said before, is LeTonya Moore Esquire. So who is she? She's an author, but guess what? That's not why she's here. She is a speaker, but I don't think that's why she's here today. LeTonya is an attorney, entrepreneur with almost 25 years experience, helping building successful enterprises. She's here today to help us with her brand, I Protect Your Brand. And what she does best, among everything else, is helping you with the estate planning, copyright planning, trademark, tax law, labor law. But one thing she's so passionate about is helping you protect your brand if you want to go out globally. How is that? So today, I am super excited introducing to you LeTonya Moore Esquire. LeTonya, you there?
Yes. Thank you so much, Christy, for having me.
Awesome. Wow. You know, you and I connected. I should tell the audience how we connected, because sometimes, though, you never really know the power of connection. And I've been so lucky to be connecting with a lot of individuals that I don't know at first. I didn't know what that relationship will come out to be. You and I connected because I was following you. I was watching your videos, And after a while, he sees I didn't see you anymore. And I remember one time I was thinking, it was just 2 weeks ago. I was thinking, it's like, whatever happened to that lady? I haven't seen her lately. I haven't seen her lately. And I kid you not, I went to work that morning, turn on my cell phone. Here you are live. I go, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And then I think I commented on your video, and then we started connecting ever since. So thank you so much for coming to the show. And I love what you do, because as we were talking earlier, the world is now becoming one. The world is becoming one. And that also includes a lot of traveling. People are traveling, doing businesses outside the United States. And when I think about your brand, when I think about branding yourself and your business, how do you maintain the law that has to do with that? And so I'm going to throw it out there before even we get started. Tell other people, because we see you here, right? But we don't really know where you have been. And I've always said that it's not on the mountaintop that we get to learn the greatest lesson. It is in the valley, because before you can get to the mountaintop, you must first walk through the valley. So pull the curtain just a little bit and tell us your journey. How did you get here?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that warm introduction. I really appreciate it. I spent my corporate career, I'd say my 9-to-5-er. I was a defense attorney for the federal government. Did that for 11, 13 years, something like that. And I really started out as a creative outlet. One of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to give back and help people keep their businesses, so really, like, it started like that. It just started as just a desire to give back and a desire to help. And that quickly turned into, a side business that turned into an actual business. And the more passionate I got about it, Christy, the more I wanted to, I felt like that was my calling, and that's what I really wanted to do. And so eventually I like a lot of people, I walked away from the 6 figures, the every 2-week paycheck, the 401k, the 6 weeks of vacation, things like that, into, what I thought was going to be, just a smooth transition. But even for me, and this is why I can tell other people and share with other people what to do, because I did a lot of what don't you do, right? Like what you shouldn't do. Because I realized when I first started, I was really ill prepared. There were a lot of things that I didn't do that I should have done. And so when I started thinking about what were the missteps that I made, that if I share these with my clients, what's going to make it better for them? And so that's really how my present brand, of course, everybody kind of knows me in the marketplace as the brand protector, but also my company is called 360 Brand Protection Strategies. And one of the things that, for those of you that have spent time in corporate management, you hear about 360-degree management. You have to manage the whole person. You have to look at you can't just look at an employee's work, right, or their output. You have to look at the totality of what's going on with them. And so after being in the corporate world for a while, I started to migrate that over into the way that I was providing services with my company. And that gave birth to the 360 Brand Protection Strategy. So it was really awesome now to see that it's working for a lot of people, and it's really helping them get on that track, not just to go global, but to also provide generational wealth. One of the things that really stick out to me is, I'm a student of the Bible. And so it talks about leaving an inheritance for your children's children. And I think that, like, for me, that's a personal goal of mine. And so for others who have that same personal goal, we've developed strategies to help them do that and help them understand how to do that, even if they've never learned something like that before.
Wow. You mentioned global, you mentioned doing business global and brand protection. So I have a question, like, the laws in United States is different than the laws in outside the United States. So in terms of protecting your brand, are there differences with what you see here in the United States than that of outside the United States in other countries?
They are, but here's the thing. What a lot of people don't know is that if you have like a copyright, patent, or trademark, there are certain, of course, this is not everywhere in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But there are certain countries that they have reciprocity, right? So your patent, your trademark, your copyright is just as good in another country as it is here, as long as there is that reciprocity between the United States and that particular country. Now, I don't have all of the list of every single country, that it is, but it's something that if people have a very specific question that they want to talk about, and they need to contact me to research that for them, and, so that they know that their intellectual property is connected in the global marketplace, that's something that we can provide. But to answer your question directly, depending on where you are in the world and where you're going to operate, your copyright here may be just as good as it is in another country, but you do have to register it, right? You still have to register it. They will honor it in terms of how long you've had it, in terms of how long, in terms of like ownership, right? They will honor that, but you still have to register it just like you would register anywhere else.
So you will still have to register it in the other country that you plan to do business. Is that right?
Right. If you're going to do mainstream business. Now, of course, when you're talking about if someone is buying something on the internet, for example, let's say their products or services, it's a little bit different because you're still operating in your local market. That's just like if someone traveled from another country over here and they purchased for you. What I'm talking about is people that are going to be boots on the ground doing business in another country on a major scale. Major for them, not necessarily major to everybody else, but definitely major to them. If you're going to be operating in that local economy, you want to make sure that you have your products and services and your trademarks and your monikers. You want to make sure you have all of those things protected.
Wow. So what do you suggest that entrepreneurs can do to be able to protect their brand?
Well, I always say you definitely have to have your copyrights and your trademarks in place. Sometimes we get so excited and we just throw things out. Nowadays, everybody's so excited to share things on social media, right? I can't tell you the number of times I can get up and when I first get on, I see, oh my gosh, God gave me this revelation about, and they put the whole thing, right? They put the whole plan that God gave them on social media. And the next thing you know, somebody's doing it and they're angry about it. And so the first thing is keep your mouth shut. I mean, keep it to yourself, right? That's really the first thing. Keep it to yourself until it is fully developed, until you have gotten a trademark or copyright, if that's what you need to do. The poor man copyright is not legal, at least not here in the United States. So you want to make sure that you have a true copyright, a true trademark. When you put something out, if you do decide that you're going to put something out, put a copyright notice there. So anybody that steals it, anybody that uses it, all you have to do is put a copyright notice there. And that lets the marketplace know that you are taking steps to protect that information that you're putting out. And there is an intent on your end that this is going to be information that you own. Otherwise, it's just in the public domain, and it's a lot harder to challenge when you just put something out in the public domain and there's no notice that you're planning to protect that information.
Wow, I'm loving this conversation that you and I are having this evening because I am taking notes for real. I am taking notes. When you said, shut up, whatever you're thinking, just don't put it out there. And you're right. That's why a lot of us do, because we never really thought about brand protection. Never thought about the brand protection. So when we talk about brand protection, you have big companies and you have small companies, mom and pop stores, right? Individuals, solopreneurs. And it can actually get a little bit expensive. So do you have a cost-effective strategies that individuals can use or businesses can use to protect themselves?
Absolutely. So, Christy, oftentimes, again, some of this is really based on industry. So, if you're a product-based company versus a service-based company, that's going to determine what recommendations I make, if that makes sense. I will say that I do not, under any circumstances, recommend that you use online legal services that does not have a physical attorney attached, right? A physical attorney attached. So I think that for me, if you have access, and again, I would encourage people that if you're in this situation, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a budding entrepreneur and you are in a position where you know that you need an attorney, I'm going to encourage you guys, reach out to me so that I can connect you with the services that you need based on your business. But yes, there are lots of cost-effective strategies that you can do. One of the things when you're looking at copyright, for example, it costs you nothing to put a copyright notice out. Mm-hmm. A copyright notice is something that's free. You could probably get the language online, right? Because it's a little C, y'all, it's a little C. It's a little C inside of a circle. And you just say, copyright 2018, LeTonya Moore, and I attach that to whatever it is that I'm putting out in the global marketplace, whatever it is I'm putting out on social media, whatever it is I'm sending out in my email blast, right? Whatever it is that I'm sending out in a text form when I'm doing my text marketing. So that's one of the things that you could do. Before you get a chance to formally register your trademark, use the trademark logo, right? On anything that you are asserting, I own this. I am taking ownership of this, because the biggest issue is making sure that you put the marketplace on notice. And those are the ways that you do that. And that is something that you can do if you have Microsoft Word. You don't need an attorney to give you a trademark notice. You don't need, a copyright notice. You don't need an attorney to give you the trademark logo. You just put it on there. It's called a TM. It's under your symbols in Microsoft Word. And you got to make sure everywhere that you utilize something that you intend to trademark, even if it's your name, you want to put that, the little TM, right? So just for you guys who may not know, when you see something that has a TM behind it, that is basically that brand saying, we are taking steps to let you know that we own this. We are asserting an ownership right into whatever this thing is. Okay? So on the other hand, when you see something that it's a little R inside of a circle, that means that brand has formally taken the steps to register that trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. That's the difference between the TM and the R. Now, why is that important? A lot of people have asked me the question, Christy, well, if I can just do it with Microsoft Word, why would I register it? Mm-hmm. Well, you register it because that's the only way that you're going to have standing if somebody decides that they want to take it and use it. You can't bring a court case if you don't have standing, meaning you have a right to say, well, I can assert ownership of this. It must be registered to do that. Even though you may have been using something for 15 years and you register it 15 years later, the way that the courts treat this is, when is the very first time that whoever used it in the marketplace, and did you place the marketplace on notice that this was your brand? And so, or you were asserting ownership. And once the court answers that initial question, yes, then the other person has to come forth and show that they had ownership first, or that they were operating, utilizing it first. So that's why that TM and that copyright notice is very, very important for entrepreneurs that may not have the budget.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you saying is that if you don't have the money initially to get started on this, you can always put the symbol of the trademark or copyright. However, to make it legal, you actually need to register it. Is that right?
Absolutely. And even for people that are looking for, they need assistance with registration, again, there are a network of people that I work with that, of course, depending on your state, we connect you with the people that you need to connect to, and it's very reasonable for any entrepreneur.
Wow. You know, as you are talking, I'm thinking myself, how many times do I have things that that is very peculiar to me, but I never thought about putting TM or copyright to it. And I guess if anybody copies it or writes it, it's a fair game because I cannot say that I own it because there's no trademark or no copyright symbol on it. Wow.
Right. And see, and people don't know, I mean, technically they don't know that you have any intent to protect it because you didn't have anything to let them know. That's why it's very important to utilize those symbols. That's why it's important to put that copyright notice on there, basically saying I'm taking ownership of everything that I've just written, or I'm taking ownership of this symbol or this logo or this name. Right? Mm-hmm. Because you want people to know that your intent is to own this, and you want to be the only one with exclusive use of whatever it is in the marketplace.
So what happens? I mean, here in the United States, it's very easy to go to do that and go into court to defend that. But what happens if I am in the United States and I'm using my logo and it's just designed for me and nobody uses it, and somebody else from outside the United States likes the logo and they decide to duplicate the logo? What will happen? But I've already registered the logo. What will need to happen?
Well, it depends on if the country where this happened, mm-hmm. if it is one of those countries that I told you that there's reciprocity there, mm-hmm. right? Because if there is reciprocity, then that company will recognize your ownership. If it isn't reciprocity, that is literally country to country specific. Wow. Like, it just depends. If there's no reciprocity, then what do the rules say for this particular country? That's why you have to be strategic as a business owner where you are operating. A lot of times people just say, well, I want everybody as a client. I don't care where they live. If you have something that's valuable, that can be valuable in other places if duplicated and people can steal it and use it and all of that, you have to be very, very strategic in how you put your information out. You just have to. And unfortunately, Christy, sometimes in some countries, you may not have any recourse. You just may not have any recourse over there. They just may make money off of your brand. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that you don't take the steps to protect it. Sometimes there's no recourse. Again, a lot of times it just comes down to what country is it? Is that someone who has reciprocity with the United States? And if so, then you follow the already agreed upon channels. If not, then you have to figure out what is it. Like, at that point, you definitely need an attorney, right? You need that attorney that can guide you and give you guidance under those circumstances.
By then it's probably going to cost them a lot more than if they would have done it before. Before. Yes.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying that, I believe that all entrepreneurs should have access to legal counsel. It's not always affordable, but there are lots of things, like I said, for people like myself, and I know that there are other attorneys that do this as well. We have like a network of attorneys that we deal with that we can refer people to, budget based. It really just depends. And I know for myself, I deal with firms in Canada and also in the US. So it really just depends on if a person wants to do that, of course they would have to contact me and we would talk about what their needs are and where they are so that I know who to connect them with. It's not free, but it's not the cost of a regular retainer either.
Wow. I learned so much about, it's not really, someone needs to talk to you to really understand the whole dynamics of brand protection, especially if you plan to do it big globally. And
yes.
It's really, I see why it's necessary that you really have an attorney look at what is it that you want to do, especially if you plan, like you've said, plan to do it globally. it makes a big difference. So I want to ask you, you did mention earlier on about people seeking legal opinion online. Can you expand a little bit more about that?
I really don't recommend it. I really don't, because, okay, let's say that you go online and you found some contract, right? And you say, well, I want a contract for an independent contractor. I'm just making this up. I want a contract for an independent contractor, and I'm just going to buy it as is. When they say, okay, this is good for your state, what they're saying is it's the minimal, like it's legally binding. That does not mean that it's taken into account your unique situation, right? Because you're getting the exact same contract as the next person's getting, but your situations are different, even though you need an independent contractor, right? Is it an independent contractor that's performing, or is it a subcontractor, for example, versus a direct contractor? Is it a product-based? Is it service-based? See, when you buy these and download these things online, it doesn't have all of that in there. The other thing too is it's very much driven on what you tell it. So if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, the contract is not going to have everything in it that you need in it, because you don't know. You have no idea what things you need to think about. So that contract is only going to include what you tell it to include, and you don't know from the beginning what it should include. So that's why I always tell people it's a cautionary tale about getting online and buying these canned contracts, because I will tell you that the majority, and this is a fact, the majority of people that come to me with contract situations and problems, it's that very thing. They got online, they bought a contract through XYZ online service, and something happened that the contract said nothing about. Wow. It literally said nothing about it. And so now it's, well, what do we do? Because we have a contract, but this happened and the scenario isn't covered, versus working with someone like myself or people that are connected to my collaborative partners. They're going to go through those things with you, right? And they're going to ask you those questions, and they're going to provide you a legal review just like I do. And so at that point, you could go and do it yourself, because at least you already know what should be included. Or, of course, you will have to pay a fee to get the attorney to do it. So it's a lot cheaper to get an attorney review and like a critical analysis of what you have written. You may not be able to afford to, $3,000 or whatever it costs for them to do a certain contract, but you may be able to afford $300 for a legal review, for them to give you feedback.
Now, explain what legal review is for some of us that don't know what it is.
So legal review, Christy, would be a situation. Let's say that you bought a contract online, right? Mm-hmm. And before you use the contract, you wanted to say, okay, LeTonya, I need to have this contract reviewed to make sure before I have this person sign it, that I have all of my bases covered. So what'll happen is you would send that to me. I would tell you, well, what would the fee be? Well, the fee is based on the type of contract, what all is involved, of course. But you say, okay, I tell you what the fee is, you pay the fee. I look at that contract to see, does it meet your unique need? So it's pretty much telling you what else needs to be included in the contract so that it will be unique to you versus just the canned contract that you bought online. Why is that important? How does it save money? Well, if you don't, I'll just use myself, because other attorneys may not do this. If I don't have to create something, then you're only paying me to look at it and give you feedback. You're not paying me to create it from scratch. The time is different. I don't have to research, all of that. One of the things and what really made me say, you know what, I need to have partners everywhere that think like me, that's willing to do this in the other places, is for that very reason. I would rather somebody come and say, okay, LeTonya, I can pay you $225 or $275 to review this contract, but they may not be able to afford $2,000 for me to create the exact same thing.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense, because that was one of the concerns I have. Everybody is at different level in this entrepreneurship. Some people may afford the $3,000. Some people may not afford even $200. So, but you explained it very well. So it depends on really what you need. And if you don't have the money, I'm sure you can work it out with you as far as making payments as well. So definitely. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and I really want to get your opinion on this, your expertise on this, is everybody these days everybody is writing books. Everybody is writing books. And I'm talking in specific as far as the title of the book. Is it protected once it's your title? Can somebody else use it? Can somebody else not use it? Is there any legal action? And the content of your writing. Can you explain on that?
Book titles, movie titles, song titles themselves cannot be copyrighted. So somebody can make a book with the exact same name. The content, though, is copyrighted. So you own the content, but you can't copyright the name. So there are a lot of books out there with the same name. There are a lot of songs out there with the same name, because you can't copyright the name, because it's not unique, right? It's just something that you call something. Mm-hmm. However, the content, though, is copywritten. One of the things, I'm glad you brought up books, that I want to have people to really, if you don't do anything else, if you're ever a part of an anthology, make sure that you retain ownership rights in your own chapter. Because once you give away those ownership rights, you cannot take that chapter and put it anywhere else. Now, the information may still be the same, but the chapter as written, even though it's your intellectual property, you must retain the rights to that chapter, the right to utilize that chapter, because if you don't, again, remember I told you the content of the book, the copyright holder owns the content of the book. So you may have a person that puts an anthology together that does not write one thing, but they own the collection. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. So you got to be careful with that. But that's one of the things, I'm glad you brought that up, because I see that all the time. Someone has been a part of an anthology. The anthology says either the contract is silent, or the people are like, you can't use it. And so you have to decide if that's an anthology that you want to be a part of.
And so what will happen if you already did, but there wasn't a contract, a written, because verbal contract is not good enough. There is no written contract as to whether or not you own the right. What happens then? Can you go back, or that's a done deal?
Well, copyrights could always be assigned, right? Like anything else. Like it's like you assign any type of if you have a patent assignment, or you allow somebody to use it, like it could be licensed, so it depends on how that is. If there's no contract in place or nobody said anything, that's a tricky situation, because I know if I were doing an anthology, for example, I wouldn't want someone taking the exact same chapter they put in my anthology and put it in another anthology, which is why they normally tell you that you can't do that. Now, you can rework that same information, that same perspective, because it's not the same thing. That's your own personal experience. You can always share your own personal experience. But if you found yourself in an anthology type of situation, or compilation type of situation, and there's no agreement in place, it's really up to you how you want to handle it. But I will tell you that what you definitely cannot do is control what the copyright holder decides to do with the project and with the information.
Wow, that's huge. That's good information to know. That's really huge because, like I said, these days there's a lot of compilation book, and if you don't know exactly how it works, and you just write a book hoping that you can use it next time, there may be there's no contract in place whether or not you can use it. Using it may present a problem. By then, it's probably too late.
Right. Absolutely.
And talk a little bit about, you mentioned a little bit of it, and that is protecting your intellectual property. Can you expand on it just a bit? Because these days with internet and technology, there's no telling where your intellect, once you put it out there, it's hard to say that no one else will use that information. Can you talk a little bit about that, LeTonya?
Absolutely, and that's what I was saying before about using the trademark symbol, using copyright notices, keeping track of where you post things, right? A lot of people write for these online digital newspapers or news outlets, or magazines, right? Who owns that information? How can you use it? Is there a limitation to what you can do? So the biggest thing about protecting your brand this way is that the easiest thing to do is utilize some of those strategies. Like I was saying, put the TM there. Make sure you have that trademark logo. Make sure you have a copyright notice. But you really are going to have to be vigilant in asking the people whose platform you're going to be on, right? Okay, do I retain all the ownership rights? Is there any restriction to what I can do with my content? That's really a lot more costly than someone deciding that they're going to steal a quote and not give you credit.
Wow. So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You do a video, and now we have digital magazine, like you said. You can do a video and have it on the digital magazine. How do you still need to trademark it or not? Or copyright?
No, that would be a copyright. So you would have a copyright notice. I don't know if you used to watch I'm old enough where we had VHS tapes.
Yes,
right?
I did.
But if you remember, when you pop it in, there's a copyright notice. Before you even watch it, they let you know what the consequences are if you utilize the information. Well, that copyright notice that you put in your description is the exact same. Some people actually, if you notice, if you look at certain videos, it'll have in the video, copyright, whatever, it'll have it just at the bottom. So that if that content is duplicated, that copyright notice goes right along with the duplication. So it's built right in. Oftentimes people do watermarks so that they can make sure that that content is not duplicated without, the viewers knowing who the owners are, and what it's attributed to. So there are a lot of different strategies, again, that you can do in the online space to protect your information. One thing that no one thinks about, those of us that do speaking engagements, right? You have to ask. Most people don't. So let me give you guys some strategies. When you're doing a speaking engagement, number one, you ask whether it's being recorded. A lot of people say, oh, are we streaming live? Are you going to have a videographer there? Because, you just want to make sure that you got a video that you can use, right? Mm-hmm. So have you ever thought to ask what happens to the raw footage? Every time I talk to people and they're like, no. So they just have years and years of footage. They have no idea what happened to it. That's number one. Number two, have you thought to ask, how are you going to use my video? No, most people don't, right? And the reason that you want to know that is you want to know how your likeness is being used. You want to know, again, all of these are brand protection secrets, right? You want to know how they're going to do that. But the other thing, too, is what if they take that video and they create a conference DVD that they're now selling for $15 or $20, but you're not getting any money off of that? Not saying that you should or you shouldn't. It's just something to consider. You want to know that. You want to know if they're going to be selling it. you want to know, well, where's this video? Where is it going to be? Right? What's the distribution channel? Why am I doing this? Is this content going to be offered for free, or is this content going to be offered at a cost? And then you, based on that information, you have to decide where to go next. Again, this is why you need to have legal counsel on your team that you can reach out to when you have these questions.
Wow, you brought up a good point. And when you're doing your conferences or any events, you normally have somewhere there that you're consenting to use your video. But what I'm hearing you saying is that consent to use my video, to what extent, to what channels? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, because here's the thing. The other thing is you want to always know, just because I tell you that you can utilize my video, I should know or be able to limit, if I desire to do so, how you're going to use it. So like, for example, if you notice certain times, certain places where you go, it'll say, just by being here, you're consenting to the use of your image likeness. You see all these posters, right? Because that means if you don't want your image used, you need to leave. But you've been placed on notice that we're going to use it. But it always says what they're using it for. It may say for marketing. It may say for promotional purposes. There's always something attached to how they're going to use it. Or it may be something that's open that says we use it however we want to use it. But the point is, there's still something there that says how it's going to be used at a minimum. And that's what you need to know.
Wow, this is huge. I can see it, including myself. This is really huge. So thank you for that. Now, let's go back and talk a little bit about contract and your business. Having a contract in place for your business and just doing it without any type of contract.
Well, give me a little bit more. Like, are you saying contract in terms of the collaborators? Are you talking about independent contractors?
It can go so many ways, but I'll give you an example. Say you are in a mastermind with people, or you are in some type of collaboration with people, partnering with people, and everybody's coming in with their own idea, right? And when you are in such a group, you just want to open up because everybody's supporting each other. But then down the line, well, the agreement will be oral agreement, may be or may not be. Sometimes it may be an oral agreement that everybody will stay to what belongs to them and you don't use other people's information. Sometimes I've been at a place where nothing was said, right? But so down the line, you'll find out that all your content, or most of it, that somebody else is using it. That's the type of contract I'm talking about.
Well, in those scenarios, the biggest thing, anytime you're in masterminds, most mastermind groups now, they're formal now, right? So the ones that are formal typically have agreements that speak to these sorts of things. But let's say that you don't. So one of the things that depending on if you're running the mastermind or if you're in the mastermind, some of these things may apply, some of them may not. You definitely, if you're running a mastermind group, at a minimum, you need to have a confidentiality agreement that everybody in that group signs. Because that means that they can't go out and tell other things that people shared in the group. Right, so you definitely want to make sure that you have a confidentiality agreement. I believe in mastermind groups that you may be able to put non-compete clauses in place. However, you want to make sure that if you do that, the wording of your non-compete talks about things that happen after you started the mastermind. So like if I'm in a mastermind group, for example, with another attorney, and we may do some things that overlap, we are not going to sign a non-compete as it relates to each other because we're already operating and practicing in a similar space. That's why most mastermind groups, they only have one of each everything. They don't have a bunch of lawyers. They don't have a bunch of the same people for that very reason, because you don't want to have a situation where someone's competing. But I would say you definitely want to have a non-compete. And then depending on what you're talking about, especially, for example, if you're talking about something that's revolutionary, if you're talking about something that is patent worthy, then you definitely want to have a non-disclosure agreement, because you don't, I mean, the confidentiality agreement is one thing, but a non-disclosure agreement really protects you from external people, right? So you want to make sure that you have those things in place as well, because you never know who's going to be a part of the mastermind. A lot of mastermind groups, like I've been a part of mastermind groups where they have outside trainers come in. So the people that you sign the contract with is not necessarily the person that you're divulging information to. So those are just things that I would say that you definitely want to have handy. A non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement, and at a minimum, a non-compete clause or a non-compete agreement.
Wow. I mean, I have learned so much about brand protection. I thought it just, wow. I appreciate you coming today to share information. I just want to follow up on something you said earlier, and that is the 360-degree brand protection. Why does that really matter to me, especially as a business owner?
Well, sometimes when people initially think about brand protection, they think about the things that we've talked about, right? They think about patents, they think about trademarks, they think about copyrights, and they think about contracts. They really believe that that's the only thing that will their brand rise and falls on intellectual property or contract law. Here's the thing that I think you have to consider. Think about companies like Papa John's, right? They're on a business call and he uses a racial slur that for a smaller company, it would have completely demolished the company, right? Mm-hmm. You have situations where, let's say that you're in a business relationship and you have one person that's the brains and the other person is creative, is the creative mind, right? Mm-hmm. They're the creative genius. But the person with the brains, like they're the visionary, they're the one that takes the company forward. Well, then what happens in a scenario where the visionary dies? These are things people don't think about, right? Because they just say, hey, you're the visionary, you're the brains, I have the creativity, let's just do it. The 360 strategy looks at every aspect, right? It's like when if you depending on what type of vehicle you have, they talk about the 14-point inspection, mm-hmm. or the 10-point inspection. That's how the 360-degree brand protection strategies work, is that we do that 14-point inspection based on you and your unique situation. Are you a solopreneur or is this a partnership, right? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have children? Okay. Do you have elderly parents that you're taking care of? So we look at all of those things in relationship to your goal. And that's why the 360 model is crucial for business owners that are looking to grow. Now, the 360 model is not for the person that's just got the business to replace their job, because it's just like working a job, right? When you work a job, either you retire or you die, and then you have your insurance or whatever you have in place, right? We're not talking about that person, and there's nothing wrong with that model. But what we're talking about is the person that really is legacy focused, the person that's saying, you know what, when I leave here, I want to make sure that I have the proper systems in place so that my grandchildren's grandchildren can enjoy the fruit of my labor.
Wow. I'm just enjoying this conversation, and I'm sure our audience are over there enjoying the conversation as well. So I really, I'm going to definitely bring you back to talk, because I know you have more information and more nuggets to drop for us. But as we come to the close today, I want to ask you, from your own experience, having been in business for over 25 years and dealing with this issue, what do you think are the 3 biggest mistakes that people in business, entrepreneurs, make in terms of brand protection?
Number 1, talking too much. sharing too much with too many people without regard to putting some safety measures or security measures in place. That's number one. Number two, not being willing to invest. They're not willing to invest. Number three, they start too fast. They start to implement too fast. They don't spend enough time planning and positioning so that when they do get ready to grow, now they have to go back to square one and get lots of things in place that if they had just taken the time, they would have been ready when growth was ready, they would have been ready.
Now, one more thing before I close. And there's been an issue of, should I incorporate? Should I have a legal entity in terms of my business? Or am I okay as a what do you call, a Schedule C business person, which means you don't have an entity, a legal entity. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Well, here's where it comes down to. When you don't have a legal entity in place, it's just like you as a person, right? It's you as the individual. You are taking 100% of the risk, which means that your family's at risk, your legacy's at risk, you personally are at risk. So that's why I always recommend having a legal entity, even if it's a single member LLC. Because here's the thing, a single member LLC for tax purposes will still be a Schedule C employee. Will still be a Schedule C taxpayer, right? But for liability purposes, their liability stops with their business. So that means, of course, there's a lot more to this, but in general, if you have an LLC as a sole proprietor or as a single member LLC, as a single member LLC, if you have an LLC in place and something happens in your business where you get sued, they're only going to be able to sue you to the extent of whatever your business has. Versus you may have retirement accounts in your personal name. You may own a home. You may own other property. You may have mutual funds. You may have stock. You may have all sorts of things. You may have art, right? You may have all sorts of things. Well, as a sole proprietor, you're opening up all of those things to be tapped if there's a lawsuit. So I always tell people, if you don't care about losing everything that you have potentially, you don't have to get an LLC. Now, I will say this. Oftentimes people say, well, I don't get an LLC because, my business, there's so little of a chance that I will get sued as it relates to my business. That is just a bad position to take. I was speaking with a woman who told me that, and she was a virtual assistant. And so as we started talking, I said, well, you're a virtual assistant, but you're processing payments for your clients. So that means that you have access to financial information. You have access to sensitive data that if there's a breach, right, if you accidentally send one person's social security number to another person, now there's a breach. Do you realize you could lose your entire business just by doing one of those things if that person takes that other person's information and they use it because you compromise the information? And just giving her that scenario, she was like, I'm going to get an LLC like right now, right? And so we have to really think critically about our business. We just can't say, oh, this won't happen to me because of that. I guarantee you, we are all at risk when it comes to things like that. And that's why I always tell people, at a minimum, get a single member LLC. It doesn't cost that much. $100 a year? That's worth it to me to protect your personal assets.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I know that our audience are listening and they cannot wait to ask your questions. But I want to ask you before we close, do you have anything that you would like the audience to partake in?
Yes, actually I do. So initially I thought about I have a 15-minute consult strategy session, usually that's enough time for me to know where people are. So I definitely want to do that. For people that are interested, they can go to the website. You can actually go right to the website and you can schedule a time to talk about your business. We can talk about some things that you have today, that you've heard today. I'm encouraging everybody to at least do a consult about how to get connected with legal services that everybody in business can afford. So get on my schedule so we can talk about that, because a lot of that depends on where you live in the United States and in Canada. Okay, if you live somewhere else, you can call me and we'll work that out as well. So I definitely want to offer that session to get people connected with a firm or a sole proprietor, a sole practitioner, depending on where they are, that they can afford. So they go right to the website, schedule a 15-minute consult, and we'll get them connected with that. The other thing that I'd like to offer your group is I do have sample documents that are general documents, right? But they're not ones that really have to be very specific. So I do have some non-disclosure agreements, some confidentiality agreements that I do provide to people like entrepreneurs that are seeking to I need to just get, make sure that I'm protecting this information. So for that, normally those are $97 each. I will do them for your group for $47.
Awesome.
So it's like a $50 savings.
Awesome. Definitely. Thank you so much for, I'll definitely be calling you for that. That's for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. So audience, before I get back to the audience, I just want to remind you that on the 20th of October, I have a conference, Rock Your Brilliance Empowerment and Business Conference, coming on here in Sacramento, California. That's on the 20th of October, and that will be held here in Sacramento, California. And you can go over to Women's Coaching Association.com/conference. Again, you can go over to Women's with an S, Women's Coaching Association.com/conference. And you can register. The conference is early bird is only $25. You can't even beat that. And that also includes the lunch, but the early bird ends October 3rd. So seats are limited. You want to hurry up and get your ticket before they're all sold out. I also want to remind you that every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I have Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show, and that's what we're doing now. I'm switching gear. I used to have that on Zoom, but now I'm learning how to do it on a new platform. So come back here on my page at Rock Your Brilliance, and you're going to every Monday at 6 p.m. And then I also want to remind everyone about my association, Women's Coaching Association. This is where I bring all women coaches together to collaborate, connect, and partner in one place in a non-competitive atmosphere. And if you want more information regarding that, go to womenscoachingassociation.com. Again, womenscoachingassociation.com. And I would love to connect with you. Just send me information, or better yet, you can register at that place. So, any final word, LeTonya, before we end here?
Yes, thank you so much, Christy, for having me. I really appreciate it. And again, I just want to encourage everyone to really, if brand protection has been either not on your list or very low on your list, it needs to definitely be at the top of your list. So I'm encouraging people to do their research so that they know how vital taking these proactive steps are and how it can improve their business.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'll be connecting with you later on. And
okay.
I am going to see what the question our audience has.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to figure this thing out as far as pinning it on top. And Dr. Marianne Afua is on the line. She's actually one of my speakers for the upcoming conference I have on October 20th. She's coming to us all the way from Arizona. And Dr. Marianne Afua, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And is there anybody with a question? I'm still trying to figure out how we work this thing. So anybody has a question? Now I gotta put on a different glasses. Does anybody have? Thank you, Nora, for joining us all the way from Los Angeles, Fontana. Thanks for joining us. Does anybody have any question? Any question? Let me see. Okay, bear with me. I'm gonna see if there's a question that I missed. Any question? Or maybe I don't know how to pull the question. I'm looking to see if there's any question. I don't think there's any question. And if there's any question, you can go ahead and put it on the comment. And LeTonya is definitely going to respond to you, and I will respond to you as well. I just want to take the time and thank everyone. We have a conference coming on October 20th. 3 great speakers: Tanya Huffman, Public Speakers Association founder, Dr. Marianne Afua, coming to us from all the way from Arizona. And then we have my homegirl, Jennifer Dunham. So please be sure to go over and sign us and invite your friends. Seats are limited. And until next time, let's do it again, Monday at 6 p.m. Bye, everybody.